If I could introduce, I'm very keen that everybody's out of this room by 5 o'clock to make sure you get your transport home. So this session will end probably 10 to or 5 to 5. We're a little bit behind schedule, but I don't want to reduce it. Can I ask the panel to come and join me? I'm going to introduce three people as they walk onto the stage. Leading the way is Ruth Carlson. Ruth is a undergraduate student at the University of Surrey, an advocate of women's football, a very good right back, and a student, most importantly from this point of view, the student representative on the board of the IFS, and already making a very significant contribution to our work. She's part, as you can see, of a major effort to bring students right to the heart of our work. Next to Ruth is another right back, Gary Neville. I'm not sure which is the best of the two right backs on the panel at the moment, but Gary played many, many times for England, played for Manchester United with huge distinction, won more honours than I could possibly list, and I found myself feeling generous in describing this as a boy born and brought up in Liverpool. Gary, thank you very much for being here, and we know what a passionate advocate you and the class of 1992 are for young people and achievement and character, and we'll hear from you in a moment. And then with Gary, there is Sharon Hutley from the University of Lancaster, and Gary and Sharon are going to describe their partnership and how that works in a few minutes. We may have time for a question or two, but I'm not sure. But either way, if you do have questions for the panel at the end, you can always come to the front and make a question then. But first of all, I want to introduce Ruth, who's going to talk about her perspective on student experience.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ruth Carlson, and I'm a civil engineering student from the University of Surrey. I'm undertaking my professional training year, or sandwich year, with Mott MacDonald, a multidisciplinary civil engineering consultancy with offices all over the world. I am the youngest of 6 children and the first in my family to go to university. I've been privileged with the opportunities of higher education and a wealth of experience. I was asked about my motivations and my route to university. For me, it was simple. I knew I wanted to learn a skill and I wanted to leave with a profession. The one that suited my talents was civil engineering. My parents always instilled a can-do attitude. Nothing was ever too big. I plucked a few strings on an old guitar when I was 10, so my mum pushed me into guitar lessons. Similarly, I was selected for gifted and talented maths and science at my secondary school. So I've been supported by many key people in my route to university. Without the support and forward thinking of these teachers, I would not have thought university was an option. There are many students like me who get plucked out and spotted, but for many they are never spotted and their full potential may never be harnessed. Other than the complete lack of understanding about what university was, there were many barriers and obstacles to overcome. I didn't know what to ask. I didn't even know where to start. I distinctly remember discussing with my school friends about the cost of uni. I didn't know student loans existed. I asked my friend, was she getting a loan? She said, no, don't be silly, I've got a trust fund. I don't think my mum's ever stopped laughing since I asked where my one of those was. People ask me as well, why did I pick Surrey? And to tell them the honest truth, it was because I needed to fill my 5th space on my UCAS application, and I Googled the top choice for civil engineering. But I got 5 offers. Great. I kind of wish I only got 1 because I didn't know how to pick. But why did I pick in the end? Professional training year was a simple answer. No other uni offered it the way Surrey did. I remember speaking to my dad at one of the open days. It was the last of the uni visits of the place I've got an offer. He said, which one will give you the job? I replied, the one with the professional training year. And he said, okay, decision made, let's go home. Now, to this day, I don't know whether he did something very smart or he just wanted a fag and to get on the M25 quick before the traffic hit. But it changed my life. I'm standing here today as a 21-year-old, speaking on this stage to all of you about my education and the difference it's made to my life. I'm not the best mathematician in the world, nor the best physicist. On paper, many would say I wouldn't make a good engineer. But I am on the way to being a practical doer and thinker. I am an engineer, and I'm enormously proud of this fact. I have been given opportunities my family links could never provide. University finally gave me a level playing field and a life far from what I could have achieved if I didn't pursue higher education. My wider experiences, even only halfway through my 5-year degree, have been unimaginable for what my 17-year-old self thought I could achieve. I threw myself into university life, joined a brand new sport, trained hard, made the team, and was elected as women's football president all in 1 year. I am a student ambassador, course rep, and now on the Office for Student panel. I wouldn't have had the confidence to do any of this unless it was for the wider experience university gives you. And now I dedicate a lot of time to giving back to other students to ensure every opportunity is available to them, no matter where they are from. As I mentioned before, I work for Mott MacDonald. I'm based in the Foundations and Geotechnics department. Motts have supported me throughout my previous summer internship and my current placement year. I've been lucky enough to have worked on various stages of HS2. First tender design, now management, and then finally geotechnical design later on. Being able to work on such a project and given the opportunities that I've had is incredible. I absolutely love my placement. It is fascinating to be involved in such a large project, to see how it's run and the processes in place. To be part of HS2 for an engineer is a dream. I'm now beginning to think about dissertations. Motts and I will be working together for me to complete a dissertation in something that industry needs. I want something that will be worthwhile and substantial, and Motts will help me do this. I do not feel I've been churned out. I am being supported through the partnership between Mott MacDonald and the University of Surrey to excel as a graduate. I will leave in 2020 as a graduate the industry needs. Professional training years not only give students incredible experience, they ultimately support the sector to grow at the rate it craves. For those in this room, we must open the conversation to businesses, to realise the benefit to industry and education to work together, to provide paid placements as to not outprice some of the best talent, and to know the needs of the industry. Graduates will exit the education system knowing what is expected of them and ready. To conclude, my life has transformed from the shy little girl from a low-income household to the civil engineer standing here today. I'm eternally grateful to the system for allowing this to happen. I can learn, work, enjoy, contribute, and succeed. And all of this brings me where I am now, as a student panel member of the OFS. The OFS needs us, and we are at the heart. I'm excited for the rest of the year, and I look forward to working with the fellow panel. Thank you.
Well done.
All I want to say to that is thank you very much, Ruth. We are delighted to have somebody with that perspective making an active contribution on a regular basis to our board. And now let me hand over to Gary and Sharon.
So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for this opportunity to talk very briefly about University Academy 92. We're going to focus on the partnership element of it this afternoon. And for Lancaster, that partnership began with an approach by Gary with an idea about 2 years ago. And for Lancaster, who gets approached with lots of different ideas, when you get approached by an ex-Man United footballer, our first reaction was, well, either this is bonkers or it's brilliant bonkers. And luckily, we decided on the latter. And over the last 2 years, we've had a really fascinating journey exploring that brilliant bonkersness. So to start our presentation this afternoon, Gary's going to talk about that idea, and then I'm going to pick up some more about the particular partnerships that we've broadened out to over the last couple of years.
Thank you, Sharon. We finished playing football, myself and a group of other lads who'd been given a great opportunity at Manchester United 25 years ago, and we finished with a very clear ambition to impact as many young people as we possibly could in the projects that we took on. We also felt that there was a problem potentially in football, maybe in football around pathway, around opportunity, around equal opportunity, and that we felt that ultimately there may be an embedded attitude of, youngsters aren't made as they used to be. They don't have the character anymore. They don't have the leadership qualities. And our quite simple view was that as parents, at the age of around 40 now, that we are responsible for the generation that have been created. We are the ones that have put phones and iPads in their hands at meals. We're the ones who have enabled them to be taken to school. We're the ones that have put cotton wool in the, we're the one that wrapped them in cotton wool. And from our point of view, we felt that it was important that in our first 5 years at Manchester United, obviously learning about football was important, but the other characteristics that were instilled to us in that period were absolutely essential. And that we felt that ultimately, in coaching terms, parenting terms and teaching terms, that we need to take responsibility as parents, as individuals, to flip it on its head and start to put character at the very heart of coaching, of football coaching, and to ensure that we could create resilient young people for the future, instead of, if you like, looking at them as a sort of individuals who maybe couldn't meet our satisfaction and the requirements that we believed. So we wrote down some very simple things on a piece of paper that we would want our 21-year-old selves to look like, and things that ultimately we would want to be prepared for as we went into our working lives. And have you got the, sorry, this one, is it?
Yeah.
So subject knowledge, skill, it's obvious. You go to university or you go to play football because you have a level of skill. But actually, how important is that really? The idea that those other things to us were the most important things. And when you look at things like work experience is something that I believe is obvious. You will do a placement of work experience. However, what was the consequence of a poor attitude of not working hard? Maybe you should experience a job that you don't like during your formative years. Are we comfortable? Are we aware of our own strengths? Are we capable of judging ourselves? Are we capable of actually delivering difficult conversations to others? I think that ultimately you talk about an accountable change room that we had at Manchester United for 25 years, whereby every single player stood up and said, it's my fault. They never blamed anybody else. And they were also willing to actually tell others how to improve and when they were wrong. And that is something that ultimately I feel, particularly in businesses now that I'm part of, we're a little bit more careful, I suppose resistant to actually want to try and take on. And how do you build that into some sort of academic proposition? Presenting the idea of being authoritative, the idea of building confidence, the idea that actually when you go to be a young football player or you go to school or to college, we actually teach people skills outside of the actual subject knowledge. And we wrote down these very 10 simple things and entered into a feasibility period where we went to talk to Lancaster University. We came to speak to the DFE, we came to speak to others, and we talked about accessibility, opportunity, we talked about building character. And what I think impressed us most about Lancaster University was that 90% of Lancaster University students are from state schools. They create great opportunities. They are the best performing university in the Northwest, and that was absolutely critical to us. We believe in excellence. And that was, I suppose, the start of this journey. Doors we kept knocking on, kept opening. We wanted our academic proposition to be co-designed by industry, and what Ruth has just said there is absolutely prominent in what we believe. So we've partnered with numerous organisations who will now form part of the co-design of the curriculum, co-design of the academic proposition, and putting character and resilience very much at the heart of it. And it's at this point I'll hand over to Sharon to talk about why she entered into this bonkers world.
Okay, so why did Lancaster get involved? Well, I think one of the starting points for us was some shared values around high quality teaching and high quality student experience, and also that commitment to widening participation. But I think it was only over the last couple of years as we really worked through that we recognised that we really shared that same passion and commitment to do that. So that's really underpinning the design of what we're doing. We were also interested in curriculum innovation and the opportunity to try something different, and the fact that we could do that with a kind of blank sheet of paper with a new institution. And we were up for embracing the sector change, for example, that the Minister talked about this morning. And that was quite an interesting discussion with the academics at Lancaster. We expected a fair bit of pushback in the early days, but I think there was a recognition that actually the sector is changing and that it's better to kind of work with that than against it. So that was really encouraging. So Lancaster's role in this is as a lead partner. I think there's different ways that we kind of contribute then to the overall partnership. Firstly, of course, through academic credibility, but also fostering of a new venture. There's quite a lot of navigating to do, and that navigating's got more complex as we've moved into a new regulatory framework. And we've been really pleased to work, as Gary said, with HEFCE and with DFE as we've started that journey, but there's still much more to do on that, and we're very keen to continue to navigate that new framework and address challenges as a new provider that we're likely to face. It will be Lancaster degrees initially, with the aim of securing degree awarding powers for UA 92, but that obviously has implications for quality and governance and so on that Lancaster then is leading on at the moment. And we're into now a sort of setup phase, and we've got a lot of staff who are seconded into that startup phase to really work with the different partners that are involved in this and to try and turn this idea into a reality. So we've put a few of the sort of dimensions of innovation up on that slide. There's actually quite a few more, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of them for you. Gary mentioned about the curriculum and the way that we're trying to approach that and kind of almost inverting the curriculum and putting character development at the centre of it and wrapping around the academic elements around the outside, but clearly integrating them very strongly. And we're doing that through something called the Target Talent Curriculum, which is both standalone modules and integrated into the subject-based modules. That target talent curriculum is informed by empirical evidence from the kind of networks and leadership experiences of the class of 92 and their wider networks, but also by pedagogical theories. It's focusing on different kinds of intelligence, cognitive, emotional, social, and physical. But as Gary said, what's really critical from the start, and has been one of the interesting aspects of this, is working with industry in designing that. So one of our starting principles was that we wanted to work alongside industry to provide paid placements for all students. But what's been interesting is that as soon as we've started to engage in that discussion with major industry players, they've wanted to get much more involved. The idea has grabbed them, and they've really wanted to become involved in the curriculum design and delivery. And we also wanted a very strong digital underpinning to what we were doing, not just in terms of how students would experience teaching and learning, but in the whole aspects of their lives. So one of the first industrial partners that came into this is Microsoft, and it's been a really fascinating journey working with them to think how digital can feature in all parts of the student life and student experience. But we've needed a wider range of partners as we've gone along, and I think a bit of a game changer for us was when we got Trafford Council on board. And suddenly this turned into a notional project about widening participation and giving access to communities perhaps who weren't attracted to higher education normally. Through Trafford Council, we've really turned this into more of a regeneration project and been able to engage much more closely with the local sort of skills agenda in the Trafford area and to tap into the local network and infrastructure that Trafford Council has. So we've now got a wider range of partners involved in that. So as well as Microsoft, Trafford Council, it's also led us to a strong partnership emerging with Trafford College so that we can look at pathway courses through into UA 92 and also conversations with schools and extending through into the school curriculum. We've got a number of major corporates already signed up, like KPMG, Man United, Lancashire Cricket Club, and a whole range of others that we're having good conversations with about how they can be engaged, how they can contribute. And at the same time, we're making sure that they deliver on the kind of commitment that we need from them, which is those paid placements. So I think I'll stop there, and I would just perhaps end with a reflection on that partnership journey. It's, I think the word roller coaster has been overused in the last 2 years. It certainly has been one. It's been really hard work, but it's been really enjoyable, and I think we've all learnt a lot along the way, and I'm going to let Gary have the last word on that.
Thank you, Sharon. I think that Sharon says it's been a roller coaster. When I first came up with the idea 2 years ago, and you quite often when you enter into an idea, you think about a period of feasibility, you sometimes hit brick walls. We're now here 2 years later, about to start our student recruitment drive in the next couple of months, and the hard work really does start now. However, from our point of view, like I say, the initial ambition when we finished our football careers 5 years ago was to impact as many young people as possible and to try and not be known as ex-Manchester United football players. There is no doubt we've got an incredible amount of hard work in front of us. between us. However, if this was to be successful and we were to achieve our goals, we believe it would probably be the greatest thing that we have ever achieved in our lives. And I put the football career aside from that. As good a career as we had at football, this really is the most impactful thing that we could potentially ever have done. And we're going to give our all to it. We're committed to it immensely. We understand the difficulties and the challenges in front of us, but we actually welcome those challenges, and the hard work and never giving in spirit that we want to instill into our students is something that we'll need to show ourselves in this next 10 years to be able to establish this, if you like, new kind of university. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, colleagues, I think you may be as inspired as I am. I think this is really fantastic to hear people who've had that kind of track record in their career of choice, in Gary's case, football, saying that they're now going to change young people's lives and make that the most important thing that they achieved in their lives. And the working partnership established with Lancaster is obviously an important part of that. Lots of others of Gary's activities are relevant to that too. This was a session just illustrating one very powerful partnership and innovation. I know that many of you are involved in a variety of those partnerships and innovation. They will be very, very important to the future of the university sector, to the future of students such as Ruth. You heard how Ruth emphasised the importance of Surrey's partnership, in that case with Mott MacDonald, in motivating her and carrying her through. So this integration of academic work at the undergraduate level with work, with life, with character, I know it's on the agenda of the universities, and I think this illustrates it beautifully. So with me, can we just thank all three members of the panel again, please?